Hi everybody, this is Agnes from Sediment, and today I'm going to share with you 5 great value wines around 15 euros that punch well above their weight. I have always been excited to find value in wine. And too often when people talk about value, they put too much emphasis on the number, the price. But in reality, cheap wine and value wine are two completely different things. When we talk about cheap wine, we are only discussing the price. That's all. We have no idea about the quality. But when we talk about value, we are actually discussing quality that is delivered and whether the wine offers more or less than we would expect for the price being asked. This is something that I have said often, and sometimes people might think I am being stingy, but we absolutely can have a great value wine with 50 euro price tag, and we can have an overpriced wine at 7.99 that can feel like a total waste of money. It is because cheap wine is all about delivering product at the lowest possible cost, while value wine is about offering the highest possible quality for the price, or sometimes even over-delivering. You basically are getting more than what you paid for, or more than you would otherwise expect for that price. So finding a great value wine is actually much harder than simply finding cheap wine that gives you a wine experience. And I thought that once in a while I might share with you some of the finds I have come across in my wine journey. These will not always be cheap wines, but they will be wines that offer great value. And let me know in the comments what kind of value finds you would like me to cover next, whether that is a different price point, a specific region, or a certain wine style. Today though, because it is the first video of this kind on my YouTube channel, I have decided to make it a bit clickbaity and offer you 5 great value wines at around 15 euros that punch well above their weight. And in all honesty, it is often easier to find such bottles in regions less traveled, with unfamiliar grape varieties and so on. And I would be happy to explore those in the future as well. But today I wanted to highlight wines that can be found relatively easily, not just rare bottlings that are only available at the region of production. So let's go! And the first wine is going to be sparkling wine, and it is Picamelot, Blanc de Noirs, and Chazot, Cremant de Bourgogne. And let me tell you more about this category. You will often hear many people telling you that the greatest price alternative for the champagne is Cremant de Bourgogne. It is absolutely wrong, and I will die on this hill if I need to alone. The arguments behind this claim is usually because it is the same grape varieties that we have in Champagne. So we have Pinot Noir, we have Chardonnay in Champagne, and we have Pinot Noir and Chardonnay in Burgundy. And the other reason is because they're relatively close to each other, so the proximity, geographical proximity. But making good quality, making high quality sparkling wine actually requires a bit more than using the same grape variety, and a bit more than just a geographical proximity to a high quality winemaking region. So I am very skeptical when anyone comes with this argument to me, and let me explain why. Burgundy has recently doubled, tripled, and quadrupled their prices, and it is not with their sparkling wines, it is with their still wines. So we're looking at whites and we're looking at reds. So any kind of fruit that we can make decent quality still wine is going in that still wine, because producer can get more for that still bottle of wine than they can get for the Cremant of Bourgogne. So what is happening when you are actually making Cremant de Bourgogne? In majority of cases, the worst quality of fruit is going into the sparkling wine, the fruit that you could not get into any other still wine. So I rarely choose Cremant de Bourgogne as my alternative to quality sparkling wine, but this is one great exception. Picamelot, they have been working with sparkling wines in Burgundy since 100 years, so since 1926. So this has been their focus, and I have always been telling you that choose producer that has specific focus, that has know-how, how to produce, pink wine, sparkling wine, fortified wine. They know the best. And here, the grapes, we have 100% Pinot Noir, and grapes are coming from Saint-Aubin. Saint-Aubin is this really fashionable, quite cool area in Burgundy. So instead of putting these grapes into still wine, they're actually making really beautiful, high quality sparkling wine. It has been aged on its lees for 18 months. The dosage is around 4 or 5 grams. And it delivers on the nose alone. We don't have that expressive yeasty, that brioche, freshly baked bread aroma as sometimes I expect in the champagnes. You do have slight hint of it, like it is on the background. It is more white orchard fruit that is shining here. But they're ripe, despite the fact that it is a cooler climate, but it is 2020 vintage. By the way, fun fact, Picamelot focuses on vintage bottlings. Sparkling wines are usually a blend of several vintages. Let's taste it. The same bright, lively, white orchard fruit character is also shining on the palate, but we have these really beautiful, tiny, lively bubbles that just lifts the wine, and we have elevated bright acidity. In no way it is overpowering the fruit. It is just mouth-watering and beautiful, adding juiciness to otherwise ripe fruit character. I will give this wine 91 point. Out of today's selection, this is the most expensive wine. So let's move to the next one. All right, so the next one, as a producer, you have seen several times on my YouTube channel, but I have always focused more on their cru wines, and this one is regional blend, Confluent from Famille Lieubeau. And I do understand that we have been flooded with cheap, uneventful, uninteresting Muscadets for a while now, but I think that this region has gone through several, ups and downs, and now they are starting to deliver these really full of character white wines. Of course, we are not talking Gewürztraminer, Riesling, Gruner Veltliner character, because Melon, the grape behind these wines, I don't call it Melon de Bourgogne, by the way. I don't want it to have the association with Burgundy or confusion for people, so I simply state Melon. So Melon as a grape variety, it's not very, aromatic. It has elevated acidity. It has neutral aroma profile, relatively neutral aroma profile. So let's taste this wine, Confluent, with absolutely beautiful label. Melon. I was talking about it not being aromatic, but the moment I smelled it, I felt like, no, it is actually quite vibrant on the nose. I have these preserved lemons. There's salty minerality, like a sea breeze to it. And you also have like hint of smokiness that can easily come from lees aging. This wine has been aged on its lees between 6-9 up to 12 months. And you have, those ripe white apples and pears and some notes of flowers as well, like spring blossom, spring field. You really want to taste it. When you smell it, the saliva is just coming and you want to taste the wine. So let's do that. I would be so happy for a glass of this wine on any summer day. It has refreshing acidity. The acidity is not overpowering because sometimes, these wines can be rather thin and uninteresting on the palate, but no, this is not the case. I feel like the fruit has been harvested at its optimum ripeness here. So we do have that fruit, that apple and pear element, that white melon on the palate as well. And the mid palate is actually quite full, thanks to the fact that it has been aged on its lees. So we do have that leesy character, that creamy, slightly creamy mouthfeel that, covers the edges and elongates the aftertaste. So this is an absolutely amazing wine for 10 to 15 euros, and I will give it 90 points. All right, now we are moving towards red wines, and giving the celebrity status of Tuscany, we might think that it is very difficult to find great value wines in here, but in reality, this is a region of surprises, and we have a ColleMassari, Rigoleto, and this wine is coming from Montecucco. So let me tell you about this region. So it is bordering Montalcino and Morellino di Scansano, and somehow no one has heard about Montecucco. Sometimes you will read about it, saying that because it is bordering, again, because of the proximity to the region, more famous region, it is similar or offers greater value to Brunello di Montalcino. No, because they stylistically are very, very different. So Brunello di Montalcino is full-bodied, rich, concentrated, aged for a very long time. This, in my opinion, is more like a great alternative to Chianti Classico. So we have a minimum of 70% Sangiovese here. Other grape varieties that can be added and are added in this case is Ciligiano and Montepulciano, and they just add a bit more, structure, maybe deeper color in this case. But I think this wine offers something that Chianti Classico can no longer offer us. Because when we talk about Chianti Classico, it has developed over the years so much, and now stylistically, it is almost closing, towards Brunello di Montalcino. It is not as aged, and it definitely is not as full-bodied and concentrated, maybe not as much the oak influence, but those wines are more serious, those wines are more structured, and those wines sometimes also need more age before you can enjoy them in the glass. In this specific case, Montecucco offers that really jolly, that lively, that red berry character, that almost simplicity in its greatest way. And I remember the first time I tasted it, I was, wow, this is exactly why I loved Chianti 15 years ago so much. And now I still love Chianti Classico wines, but they are more power, they are more structure, and they for sure are more expensive. And Montecucco, this bottle goes for 10 to 15 euros. Let's taste it. You have that smoked, bright, crunchy red cherry. That's the first thing that I felt. All those red sour berries are here, those spring berries. We have a hint of strawberry as well. Lovely. There is lightness and there is easiness to this wine. Yes, we do have slightly elevated, talky, powdery tannin texture. I'm sorry. This is so typical of Sangiovese, and of course we do not want Sangiovese to lose its character. We also have that elevated, mouth-watering acidity, but overall this wine is towards lighter style. It is perfect at this temperature. It is definitely around 16 degrees now, and I would be happy to enjoy it with light salad. I would be happy to enjoy it with pizza slice, and I will give this wine 90 points. All right, so the next one was a discovery for me on this very YouTube channel. So as I was filming the video, I realized how really lovely this wine was, and I tasted it blind, and it is Guigal Côte du Rhone 2022. There was a time when a lot of colleagues of mine would tell me, if you want to get, in a restaurant, great value wine, and if you want it to be red, choose Côte du Rhone. I followed that advice, and I have been disappointed on more occasions, so I decided to drop it. But now, when tasting this wine, I remember it was really impressive. And not only that, we were talking about the price versus the quality, it was impressive, within the upper quality category. It was playing with big guys, and it was still showing, enough energy, enough concentration, enough character. So I was really pleasantly surprised. I will be honest with you though, I love Guigal wines at the very, very top. And I have realized that they make absolutely amazing value wines at the entry level of their selection. However, sometimes I think that in the mid-range, their quality is ups and downs. So of course, coming from such a large producer, there could still be variation in quality, you know, with different labels. But this one, for sure, it is great value. Let's taste it. We have that really plump, ripe black and blueberries, but they're also spiced, like you have slight spiciness to it. Crushed black cherries, plums, blueberries, and then hint of black pepper. It does tell you right away from the nose that it is going to be more powerful, more concentrated, and it does have 15% alcohol. Beautiful serving temperature again. And what I really loved in this wine, the fruit is quite jolly, open, crushed, plump, as I mentioned before, you know, and it is really ripe blue and blackberry driven. But the tannin here, something that you do not always expect from Côtes du Rhône wines, because they are made for, you know, immediate consumption and they're not made for aging. The tannin here, it has that character, it has chalkiness to it. It adds backbone and structure to the otherwise, you know, plump, bright fruit character. I think this wine definitely punches way above its weight. I will give it 92 points. Let's move to the last wine. And the last one actually comes from Alejandro Fernández project. This is Dehesa La Granja. We are in Spain. And this is 2021 Dehesa La Granja Selección Especial. It is 100% Tempranillo. How could we not have at least one example from Spain? I do think that Spain offers great value constantly. The reason why this specific wine is offering such a great value is simply because the grapes are harvested. The estate is just outside the Toro Dio. So we are in Castilla y León, and it is a broader Vino de la Tierra appellation. And of course, there are some rules that, you know, winemakers have to follow. There are still grapes that you can only bottle under this appellation, but they are much broader. You do not necessarily need to age your wine for a minimum period as it is expected in Rioja or Ribera del Duero. But in this specific case, it has been aged for 15 months in American oak. It states nothing though on the label, so we don't have crianza, we don't have reserva here. It is 5-year-old wine, and when I smelled it, the first thought that came to my mind was, it is so young and it is so nervy, it is so energetic. You have that really concentrated, deep fruit character. You have these, you know, red plums, super ripe plums. You have blueberries, really ripe forest blueberries, not those crunchy garden ones. You have blackcurrant. But all of that is almost like covered with this element of smokiness, toastiness, hint of vanilla. So we actually do feel the oak here. But it adds complexity to the wine. It adds just another element to the wine rather than overpowering the fruit. The fruit has power enough. They do not need your rescue. Smelling this wine, I thought, now I'm going to taste that really concentrated, rich and powerful wine. And when you taste it, it has elegance. It has, you know, lightness. It has elevated acidity. It has that really beautiful chalky type of tannin. It is finely grained. It is beautifully integrated within the fruit of the wine. And you definitely don't feel the oak here as well. I think this wine is amazing. I did feel slight alcohol warmth on the previous, the Guigal Côte du Rhone. This one, it says that it is also 15. I did not feel it at all. Maybe because of the previous wine, of course, you know, my palate has gotten used to the alcohol taste. But I do think that here it is better integrated and it definitely offers that much longer aftertaste. And despite the fact that this wine is between 10 and 15 euros in price, I think it can age for 10 years easily. So I will give this wine 93 points. Thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know in the comment section below what are your great finds between 10 to 15 euro price point, and make sure to watch this video next.